What if I wanted to start up a chain of coffee stores, and I went into a banker or a venture capitalist and said, I want to start these stores, and I want to charge more for my product than anybody else is. I want to pay my people. Well, I want to give them health care benefits. I want to give them stock options that the other people aren't. I'd get laughed out of the room.
As I did.
But you made it work.
Well,
how'd you do it?
Well, I think, you know, if I think back, in 1987, we had 11 stores, 100 employees, and this dream. The dream to recreate what coffee could be in America, to build the kind of company in which people would not be left behind, but they had a stake financially and philosophically in the business. And I think most importantly, that we took the road less traveled. And I think that we were unwilling to accept the cynicism that people had about the idea and recognize that this was our dream. We were not going to take no for an answer, and we were going to build a business that was sustainable, enduring, and build a great company and enduring brand. And I think sometimes the difference between winning and losing in terms of raising capital for a young entrepreneur is just the perseverance and the will to keep going. And my wife at that time was very willing to support me. She was pregnant with our first child, and we were very fortunate that we finally got people to invest. And it's ironic because many of the people who had those meetings with me today swear they never met me, never had a meeting, but I know who they are. But thank God there were many people who said yes, and we've had a great 10 years since 1987.
Well, it certainly put Starbucks is now a recognized national name, but give us the short history, if you will, from 1971. A store in Pike Place, this is pre-Schultz,
right.
A store in Pike Place in Seattle, and as a long-ago Seattle resident, I can remember Pike Place.
Right.
To 100-some stores when you came in 82 to, what, 1,200 now?
That's close.
Talk us through.
Okay. The company was founded in 1971. You're right, the first store opened in the public market there. It's still there today. I joined the company in 1982 when we had 4 retail stores, and I was the head of marketing. When I joined the company, Starbucks was in the business of selling coffee by the pound for people for their home. We were not in the beverage business. Cafe latte and cappuccino did not exist at Starbucks. In 1983, I went to Italy for Starbucks on a buying trip to an international houseware show. And in Italy, what I saw was the romance of Italian coffee and how the Italians interpreted coffee and how they brought it to life. There are 200,000 coffee bars in Italy. 1,500 alone in the city of Milan, not much bigger than Philadelphia. In addition to the ubiquity of the coffee bar, what I saw was the emotional connection that coffee had to all these people, almost to the point where the coffee bar in Italy was an extension of people's front porch. I brought that idea back to the founders of Starbucks in 1983, and they were not very keen on extending the Starbucks experience from the home to more of a restaurant experience, which was the beverage. And so to make a long story short, I left the company in '85. I tried to raise money, and I formed my own company called Il Giornale. We opened 3 coffee bars, 2 in Seattle, 1 in Vancouver, BC. And about 16 months, almost to the day after I started my own business, I acquired Starbucks for $3.8 million when they had 6 stores in 1987. And now we get to the big dream. And the big dream was in 1987 to really build the kind of company that had a soul, build the kind of company that valued its people, that elevated the experience of coffee in America, redefined what coffee could be. And also, I think, build the kind of company that really cherished values and guiding principles that were as much a part of the company's success as the quality of the coffee. And the turning point for the company, without question in my mind, was in 1989 and 1990, when we became, at that point, the only company in America, and to my knowledge, the only company still today, to offer equity in the form of stock options and comprehensive health care to all of our employees, who we call partners, including the 65% of the workforce that is part-time. That was the turning point of the company, when we were all connected to the goals, the vision, and the big dream, because we all owned it.
Those 2 points I want to dwell on again more, the health care benefits and the stock options to the employees, including the part-timers.
Everybody. And we had 100 employees in 1987. There's over 25,000 today.
Now, the expense of that is steep, no doubt.
Yes.
Why is it so important to you?
Well, The country today, if you look at the landscape of retail as we know it today, forget coffee, just retail in general, is that the country is over-retailed. There's too many stores for not enough consumers. And so as a result of that, as business people who are merchants, as retailers, we have never faced a more competitive situation. The difference between the execution of one retailer versus the other, who might have like product, is the experience. It's the emotional attachment between the people transferring the values of the business to the customer. And in our case, we have what we believe to be the best coffee on the planet. But it has to be represented by people who are passionate, people who have a stake in the outcome of what Starbucks is about. And so what's critically important is, yes, we do charge more for coffee. We do have a unique experience for the customer, but the magic of that comes alive by the trust and confidence that has been created between the people, the management of the company, the people who do the work, and they transfer that trust and confidence to the customer. Today, there are over 1,400 Starbucks stores. Almost 6 million customers a week are coming in our stores. And if you ask people why, of course, it's the quality of the coffee. But in addition to that, it's the unique relationship that they have with the people who serve them.
You have expansion plans. You're moving into the Asian Pacific market. You got the ice cream now in the grocery stores, the cold drinks in the in your own stores. Does it get to be a point of stretching yourself too thin?
Well, I think the road certainly is paved with many companies that have gotten to our size and beyond that, for whatever reason, have not continued the sustainability of their product, their service. For us, I think, one of the hallmarks of Starbucks, and I talk about this a great deal in my book, Pour Your Heart Into It, is that early on, we invested heavily in advance of the growth curve. Systems, people, the infrastructure, and we did that every single year.
But you've been doing it at a time when we've been in this long bull market. The economy is just going and going and going. It's got to turn down.
But now we're at a point right now where the leverage of the revenue base of the company is at a point right now where the infrastructure development on a percentage basis is much, much lower than it was in the early years when we invested and lost money. So today, Starbucks is opening one new store every day. We just opened in Japan, Singapore, getting ready to open in the Philippines. We have the #1 coffee ice cream in America without any advertising. In fact, Starbucks does not really advertise. We've built the company word of mouth. We have a bottle product called Frappuccino in a JV with Pepsi-Cola that potentially could be larger than Starbucks is today. And we're in the early stages, the infancy of what Starbucks is going to be. Starbucks is going to be a global franchise. Coffee is consumed all over the world, most of it pretty bad. And we have a unique opportunity to extend the equity of the Starbucks brand. And I think, most importantly, do it in a way that's compatible with the style, the elegance, and the quality of what we've built.
I want to get into that more, and we'll do so when we discuss the book in a moment. Stay with us, if you will. We'll be back with more of our Thanksgiving special here on CNBC. And welcome back to our Thanksgiving special as we go one-on-one with Howard Schultz, Chairman and CEO of Starbucks Coffee and author of Pour Your Heart Out, How Starbucks Built a Company One Cup at a Time, a book he wrote with Dory Jones-Young. And there's the cover. Mr. Schultz, one of the things that's in the book that's also in your sort of principles of doing business is whatever you do, don't play it safe. Just what your mother told you not to do, right?
Right.
And what everybody's mother told them not to do.
Well, certainly that I've got to explain that in the context of the book and how I mean it, is that so many people today come up to me. I've been on this book tour now for 3 weeks, and I've talked to many people all over the country, and so many people have had ideas, they have entrepreneurial thoughts, but very few people are willing to take the risk or display the courage to go to the next step. And what I've tried to talk about in the book, and certainly on the road, is that believe in yourself, believe in your dreams. Don't be here 20 years from now saying, I had that idea, I wanted to do it, I didn't do it. Take the initiative. And there's so many people who say it can't be done. Don't allow anyone to take your dream away. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and go for it. And for us, we have to balance that out, obviously, in terms of the business, with the fiscal responsibility we have to the shareholders, but also in terms of the business today. I don't want to accept the status quo as the operating procedure. And that's harder even when you've had a level of success, as Starbucks has had. But it's not sustainable if you do not continue to push for reinvention and self-renewal. So I want to continue to take risks that are tempered with the right kind of discipline, but also push for the company's self-renewal and reinvention, even as we've had a level of success.
Another of the things that's in there that struck me as similar is it said, you say, if people believe management is not fairly sharing the rewards, they will feel alienated. I suspect there are a lot of alienated workers out there who see news stories of chief executive officers making multi-million-dollar compensations and feel they're just not getting their fair share of the pie. You think there's some justice in that?
I do, and I think for me, growing up where I did, when I did, literally on the other side of the tracks from Brooklyn, New York, where my dad never made more than $20,000 a year, I saw firsthand the plight of a working-class family in America where the American dream was not possible. So in a sense, I wanted to try and build a company and create the kind of environment that valued the worker, valued people, in a sense, build the kind of company my father never got a chance to work for. And I think the equities that we've developed in terms of ownership and healthcare, as I said earlier, that is such an incredibly important component to our success because people do feel valued and respected in the workforce. And in the end, success is best when it's shared. And we've proven that we have not diluted the shareholders by creating value for the employee, but we've created long-term value for the shareholder by creating long-term value for our people.
Let's just imagine for a moment, you get an invitation to go to the business council. That council of the business executives meets once a year, and you've got the Fortune 500 CEOs spread out in front of you, and they're all eager to hear what you have to say, and you stand up there and you say, all of you guys ought to take a pay cut. Not going to happen. How can you convince corporate America to see it your way? Or is that important to you?
I think it's really important that Starbucks and certainly I do not stand on any kind of soapbox and preach to anybody. The book and our story is just put out there as an example, not as a model, as an example of how we've built our company. And if there's anything that people can take away, like the equity program, which we call Beanstalk, like comprehensive health care, the importance of training, the fact that our turnover rate and attrition rate is two-thirds less than the national average. Why? Because people are staying because they have a stake in the outcome of what our business is about. If people want to take anything away from what we've done and use it, I think that's great. But I'm not here to preach to anybody.
Well, there is a fair amount of preaching in this book. I have to say. Well, example. You were talking about lining up investment capital here. Page 180. You get down to the bottom of the page. Wall Street cannot place a value on values.
Right.
That sounds to me a pretty harsh condemnation of Wall Street and, by the extension, the people who make up Wall Street. They've got no morals?
I think that particular page talks about the process that we went through in June of 1992 when we went public.
Right.
And we have to realize that in the 5 years that Starbucks has been a public company, our stock is up about 800%. So we've got a tremendous amount of respect for the shareholder and certainly a lot of respect for the people who cover the company. What I was trying to point out in that chapter, most specifically, is during the roadshow, during the beauty contest process when we were interviewing investment bankers, very few bankers wanted to hear about the values and guiding principles and kind of the heart of the company. What they wanted to talk about was the revenue, the store openings, and comp store sales. And before I was willing to talk about those things, I wanted to look people in the eye and say, are these things important to you? And if the values of our company are not important to you, I don't want you representing us. And in the end, we chose two banks, Alex Brown and Wertheim Schroeder, that really got it. And that's what I talk about, is that the important thing in the IPO process is not the transaction, but the methodology of the transaction and getting people who understand the company.
You say you go a lot on instinct, and the story you've just related illustrates that. Let me shift gears and say, if you were now interviewing somebody as a prospective management new hire, or if you're...
Which I do all the time.
Right. What do you look for, and what turns you off?
Well, what turns me off is arrogance. What turns me off is people who don't recognize that there are other ways to do things beyond the theory of business. There has to be a very strong appreciation for the people who have come before them in relationship to how we've built our company. There has to be a very strong appreciation for the worker. And so, you know, I'm looking for people who have had a life history, not a narrow history. I don't necessarily want people working for the company that are coming from like industries, although we've hired some. And so, you know, it's all different kinds of people. We have a very diverse management team, people from all different kinds of companies. But, you know, I'm not looking for any particular kind of person, but someone who has empathy and sensitivity to the unique aspects of the Starbucks experience. Passion about the coffee, passion about people, and about the fact that we are in the business of nurturing the soul of the culture of Starbucks. And if we ever forget that, we'll end up like everybody else. And we're not a commodity. We've taken a commodity and made it special. We certainly don't want to take something special and reduce it to a commodity because of the growth and scale of the company. The essence of Starbucks' success is the intimacy that we have with our people, and as a result, the intimacy that they have with their customer.
Hold a thought for a minute more. When we return, we'll continue with more Coffee Talk with Howard Schultz on this Thanksgiving Day. We'll be right back.